What's up? Ghost Fictions is here, and we're back again. This is the fourth part of a story where Issei was the reincarnation of the Kaiju Destoroyah. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more informations. Now, let's get into part 4. Third person POV. You know, I have been told that people call me arrogant or cocky. You know, I find that very hilarious. How can I be arrogant if I already know I will win? Take beings like Goho, Gilgamesh, and Anos. They have told their opponents that there was no chance of beating them, that they were weak, and yet, people say that I'm the arrogant one. Asterisk. I'm sorry. What? Elohim. You heard me, it's the only way we can defeat him. Currently, both the biblical god Elohim and Astareth were in a different part of the prison, which was located in the Bermuda Triangle, the most mysterious and dangerous place in the entire world. It was the location where the beast of the apocalypse, Trihiksa, also known as Beast 666, was trapped. Time works kinda differently in the prison than outside. It works much slower, so while it's been a few days to a week outside, only a few hours have passed. God brought the time demon to a new location after he attempted to see any kind of future where the ultimate lifeform, Destoroyah, was defeated. However, Astareth wasn't able to find such a future because Destoroyah somehow knew what he was doing and prevented him. Astareth sighed and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Astareth. You're asking me to go back in time and try to erase Destoroyah from ever existing? Elohim nodded his head. Astareth. How? His origins are unknown, so I can't do something like that unless I actually know when he was born. The father of creation blinked as he didn't think of that. Astareth actually had a very solid point since the last time he saw him. He came out of nowhere and tried to kill him because he was bored. Plus, there was no way that he created the Titan of Terror. Hell, he didn't create the two dragon gods or Trihiksa either. They simply spawned out of nowhere. But since it has been some time since they last battled, plus the aura he felt was much different than normal. This makes him theorize that Destoroyah has taken the form of a human, so maybe he did die and was simply reincarnated as one of his creations. So maybe, if he has Astareth find out who Destoroyah's reincarnation is, then they can finally erase him from existence. Sure, that would mean that he was basically gonna be killing one of his own creations, but that is the price he'll have to pay if they were gonna save the world from that Titan of Terror. Elohim. It's not impossible, I know a way. Astareth raised an eyebrow at this. Astareth. Really? Elohim nodded his head. Astareth. Okay then, please explain. Elohim crossed his arms. Elohim. When I felt Destoroyah's aura, it was different than what it used to be. Astareth. Different. Elohim. Yes, my theory is that he has been reincarnated as a human. Hearing this caused the time demon's eyes to widen in shock, but soon that was replaced with an expression of annoyance, since how the hell did he not think of that himself? He has mastery over time itself, possessing knowledge of things that not even Elohim knew. And yet he didn't think of the idea that Destoroyah had reincarnated. Man, Astareth sure felt like a complete and utter fool. Astareth facepalmed himself. Astareth. How the fuck did I not think of that? Elohim chuckled and shook his head. Elohim. So, do you think that you will be able to use your power to go back in time and prevent Destoroyah's reincarnation from being born? Astareth. Are you sure, Elohim? There is a chance that he could be one of your creations. Astareth knew that Elohim cared about not only his children, but he also cared about those he created. The humans. Well, it may not appear like that since he has been away and has been either apart or was the reason for much suffering in his family, he still cared and would never stop caring about all of them. If it is true that Destoroyah has been reincarnated as a human, the time demon will have to kill something that the father of creation made, and he didn't want his friend to feel bad. Astareth placed a hand on his comrade's shoulder, making him look the black-haired man in the eyes. Astareth. You have to be 100% about this, my friend. If I am able to do it, then there is no turning back from this. Elohim looked down as he felt conflicted. Protect creation. Save everyone in the Draconic Deus universe. Heaven. Hell. Devils. Angels. Fallen angels. Humans. Dragons. Yokai. All he had to do was let one of his own creations die, the host of the very beast that tried to kill him ages ago. Sure, he will never forgive that monster for what he has done to every living being in life. But he can't blame the human who has unfortunately come to bear that beast's soul and memories. They didn't want to be a part of all this. He was sure they were just a regular human who were full of rich potential just waiting to be unleashed when they grow up. Silence filled the room as Astareth waited for a response from the father of creation. He had to make sure that Elohim was alright with this before he did anything. Elohim sighed. Elohim. Astareth. My friend, be honest with me. Okay. Elohim looked up at his friend as the time demon nodded his head. Elohim. would you even be capable of finding out who that monster has been reincarnated as? Elohim received no response from his comrade at first, instead the man simply scratched the back of his head. Asterisk. I'm not sure. Actually, can you summon a whiteboard for me? Elohim fell silent but nodded his head as he snapped his fingers. When he did, a whiteboard appeared next to the two. Asterisk turned to it and picked up a black marker. The father of creation watched as the black-haired man started to draw what appeared to be a tree branch. This confused Elohim. Why was he doing this? All he did was ask if it was possible to see if he could discover Destoroyah's reincarnation's true identity. Asterisk. I could discover his identity, but time works in strange ways. He points to his drawing of a tree branch. Asterisk. This is the main timeline, what we are currently on right now. Elohim nodded his head. He then watched as Asterisk started to draw some add-ons to the tree branch, making smaller branches in different parts on it, and more on those as well. Asterisk. The timeline can change by the slightest thing, if someone wasn't born or if an event was played out differently. Elohim sighed. Elohim. I know all this, Asterisk. You forget that I too have mastery over time. Sure, it's not as good as yours, but this. Asterisk. I know, which is why me telling you all this is causing the timeline to change as well. Elohim sighed as he summoned a chair. He sat down on the chair and crossed his arms. Elohim. So me doing this has caused the timeline to change once again. Asterisk deadpanned at the father of creation. He could tell he was being sarcastic about all this, and he didn't need to hear him speak to know all of that since the time demon read his body's behavior. However, he was correct. There is possibly a timeline where Elohim didn't create a chair to sit down in. That is why many don't possess the power over time as Asterisk does. It tends to drive one to insanity from how annoying it tends to be from time to time. And no, that last part wasn't Asterisk trying to make a joke. It just came out like that. Asterisk. Yes, Elohim. There is a chance that the timeline changed. Elohim. And what does this have to do with Destoroyah? Asterisk placed the whiteboard marker he had in his hands down and turned to his comrade. Asterisk. He knew that I was using my powers to look into the future to find his weakness. If I try and use my powers to go back, then he will probably know as well. Elohim. But he doesn't have any mastery over time. I know this because I faced him myself, and while he was intelligent, he preferred to use brute strength. Asterisk. That's true, but this makes me wonder. If I went back in time and try to kill his reincarnation, does this mean that he will know and face me as the newly born baby? Elohim almost wanted to laugh at his friend's words. There was no way that Destoroyah was a being that existed within the past and future alongside his present self. Then again, what Asterisk was describing reminded him of a species that he came across a very long time ago that existed outside Draconic Deus universe, or rather, a multiverse. They were beings existing outside time and space. They were simultaneously everywhere and nowhere at the same time. He remembers one of them telling him that if there was an alternative version of themselves in another universe, they would still be the same being. For example, the outer gods. Elohim. Does this mean that Destoroyah is existing everywhere and nowhere at the same time? He grew a serious expression as he stared into the time demon's eyes. Elohim. Even if this is true, you have to try. Asterisk sighed. Asterisk. I'll try my best, God. But if I am not able to do anything, you better be ready for a battle, cause he will be coming after us. Elohim. I know. With that, Elohim watched as Asterisk teleported away from the prison in a flash of light, leaving the father of creation where he was all by himself. He rubbed the bridge of his nose. This has to work. It just has to. If Asterisk isn't able to kill Destoroyah's newly born reincarnated, then Elohim is afraid that nothing will be able to stop him. Elohim. Asterisk. Be careful. Meanwhile with Issei Haidu. Issei. So, the time demon thinks that he can try and erase me from this timeline. Issei was sitting on a couch with Kaneko planted on his lap and eating her snacks. Next to him was Kiba, who came back after the battle with Kakabiel. Turned out that both he and Zenobia were trying to locate the fallen angel with Irina, but they got separated, and that was how the chestnut-haired girl got injured. When the blonde came back, he received a beating from Riaz. How she did it was the same as how Sona punished her pieces. Spanking their ass. Now, Issei wasn't sure why that is the form of punishment they chose to do, and he won't question it, since he wasn't even a part of Ria's peerage anymore. Well, technically he was, since he still had the pawn pieces inside of him. But he's just lazy and refuses to rip them out of his chest just yet, even though he could literally do it, and that would be the end of it. But back on topic, Issei almost found it amusing that both God and Asterisk were trying this hard to get rid of him. Oh, they were gonna lose their marbles when they learned that Ghidorah was also still alive. Issei. I won't be to do anything, but… The brown-haired boy looked at his hand, his eyes glowing purple as a grin formed. Issei. I'm gonna enjoy ripping them apart. Peace. Bye. Peace. Kaneko looked at Rias. Kaneko. So there will be a meeting with the 3 leaders of the factions, right? Rias nodded her head. Rias. Yes, I've received confirmation earlier. We need to make a plan to discuss what will happen in the future. This piqued Issei's interest, a meeting between the 3 faction leaders. If his old memories serve him correctly, after the death of Lucifer and the death of God, some new leader took their mantles and became in charge of the factions. The brown-haired boy can't remember who though, since it must have happened when he went into hiding. Even with his regeneration, he did receive some severe wounds. But that was the old him. During the grace period he didn't have the abilities he has now. He shouldn't have the same problem anymore. In fact, he could technically obtain the grade 3 if he wanted to. Omnipotence. Omnipresence. Omniscience. He could have all of that and much more. He could finally rise above him and achieve something that he was not able to do. Yes, he could do it. Who in their right mind would even try and stop him? A small smirk grew on Issei's face. Issei. I will become the ultimate life form. The one that stands above every universe, multiverse. Time skip brought to you by Destoroyah. Issei standing over dead bodies. After the school day was over, Rias brought everyone up to the roof where they were greeted by the Kuo Academy swimming pool. Or rather what looks like one. Issei blinked. Issei. What the fuck is this monstrosity before me? Rias. That's rich coming from you. Issei looked at Rias. Issei. Oh, go cry me a river, bitch. The red-haired girl flipped the Titan of Terror off and the rest of the peerage sweat dropped as they weren't even gonna bother asking questions. Akeno. The pool hasn't been used since last year. Asia. We have to clean this. Rias. Actually, it was originally the student council's job, but we've taken it over. Tiba raised an eyebrow. Tiba. But why? We don't owe them any favors. Rias sighed. Rias. Technically we do if you count saving Arena's life. Issei sighed in annoyance. He would rather be anywhere else than here right now. In fact, why does he even keep coming back to this bloody school? Oh yeah, the author needs to make the story as long and as interesting as possible. Rias. On the plus side, after we finish cleaning it, the pool will be ours to use as often as we like for at least a while. Issei. Okay, now you are talking my language. Rias deadpanned at the brown-haired boy, this boy who was once her lovable pawn and the reincarnation of the ultimate life form. Still had his perverted side. Rias. Looks like there's still some pervert left in you, Issei. Issei. Ha. Fuck no, I only care about free stuff. Rias sighed as she grew a saddened expression. What had happened to them both? They were never like this. Sure, in the future, there would have been maybe some disagreements with each other. But not on this level of things. In fact, Rias herself wasn't sure what was happening. She didn't feel like herself at all, her real self. The crimson red-haired devil girl was someone who loved each of her members like they were her own family, and yet the family she loved so much was falling apart before her eyes. She felt stuck. Unable to do anything. Why were things like this? Why can't they go back to what they used to be, back to how they should have been from the start? Rias recalls the moment that Issei summoned her, the moment when he was literally on death's doorstep and begging for another chance at life. It was just your average weekend where people were out doing their own things. Issei went on a date with a fallen angel named Rainer. She tricked him into going on a date because she wanted to kill him. She feared his sacred gear, the boosted gear, since it was a powerful weapon that could kill gods and satans. How could she not want to kill him? Anyone who possesses a sacred gear have gone down in history as some of the strongest beings in the entire world, taking down nearly every opponent they came across. Rias never knew what his sacred gear was, but she did know that he was the only human in the town that possessed one. She brought him into her peerage and made him her little pawn that she enjoyed teasing with her naked body. Despite the teases, she slowly taught him the basics on what he needed to know about the supernatural world. He tried his best to be strong for her, he tried his hardest to become the best pawn she ever had. Rias silently sighed to herself. Rias. Why did things turn out like this? Time skip brought to you by Rias being conflicted with her thoughts. A few days have passed since the day at the pool. During that time Rias got in touch with her brother, who told her that it was time to release her other bishop piece. Right now, the entire peerage was standing in front of a door that has been chained up. Issei can recall walking by the room a few times, but he never really felt anything from it, so he didn't bother caring about it. Issei. In here. Rias. Last night, my brother insisted to release the seal and allow the bishop to leave this area. I'm not sure why, but the bishop refused the offer. Issei deadpanned. This basically sounded like a shut-in. Akeno. Such a shame really, considering the child used to be the largest earner we had. Issei. Really? Hiba. With special contacts, the bishop used a computer to make them. Asia. That means the bishop's power must have been pretty dangerous. Rias nodded her head as he held her hand out. In a matter of seconds the seal on the door broke. Kaneko. And the seal has been broken. Rias. Alright, let's see how this goes. Rias pushed the door open. She and the others walked inside the room, but as soon as they did, someone screamed. HHHH. Rias. Well, hello. I'm glad to see you're looking well. I don't understand what's going on. Rias walked up to what appeared to be either a bed or a coffin in the middle of the room. Rias. The seal has been broken, so you're free to come home with us, okay? The crimson red-haired girl pulled the covers off, allowing everyone to see who was underneath. It appeared to be a girl, but Issei could tell that it wasn't by the scent of them, but they were dressed in a Kuo Academy girl's uniform. No. I don't want to go out there, it's too scary. Issei looked at Kiba. Issei. When were you gonna tell me that this bishop was a cross-dresser? Kiba started to chuckle as he shrugged his shoulders. Issei shook his head in annoyance as he sighed. Rias. Everyone, say hello to Gaspar Vladi. The other bishop in my household. He is a first-year student before I turned him into a devil. This little guy was actually half human, half vampire. Asia. A real one. Issei. This is a vampire. As in those bloodsuckers that you see in old movies. Rias nodded her head. Issei simply shook his head as he looked at Gaspar. Issei. Who are you dressing for? There's gotta be a reason for all that. Gaspar. For me, I guess. I just think these clothes are cuter. Issei sighed. Issei. Why do I even bother? Rias. Gaspar, why don't you come outside now, okay? Gaspar. I don't wanna, please don't make me. Issei growled. Issei. Will you just hurry up? I wanna leave this fucking place. Issei grabbed Gaspar's arm, but as soon as he did the blonde was gone. Issei. What the? Gaspar. I'm sorry, I made you mad didn't I? Please don't hit me, oh please. I didn't mean it. Akeno. Looks like the forbidden Baylor view. The brown-haired boy turned his attention to Rias. Issei. Explain. Now. Rias. The forbidden Baylor view, also known as the evil eye that stops the world. It's Gaspar's sacred gear. Issei. And what does it do? No one should have been able to escape my grasp. Kaneko. When he gets too excited, he can stop whatever he happens to be looking at for a certain amount of time. Issei. He stops time. Akeno. That's right, unfortunately, Gaspar couldn't control his power. So Serziches decided he should be sealed away. Rias. On top of that, his ability seems to grow stronger unconsciously, so there's a distinct possibility it could become a balance breaker. Issei narrowed his eyes at this, a sacred gear that can stop time. He can't recall such things anywhere in his past memories, actually, he can't get any information from his old memories. Looks like he didn't get to see the sacred gear system when it was created, so he has no clue about any of them. The only one he does know about is the boosted gear, which wasn't a surprise since that was technically his own. Of course, he would have knowledge of his own, but any other sacred gear is a complete mystery to him. Issei. If he has the power to stop time, and I know the White Dragon Emperor is out there. What other sacred gears are there? Akeno. Rias, I think it's about time for us to go. Rias. Yes, you're right. If you excuse us, Akeno and I need to go to a meeting about getting ready for the Leader Summit. Rias stood up and walked over to Akeno, she then looked at everyone else. Rias. Now everyone else, I'd like for you to take over Gaspar's training until we get back. Issei. Yeah, I'm not doing this. Time skip brought to you by Issei flipping Rias off. Gaspar. Ah. Currently, Kiba was chasing Gaspar around with one of his swords to train the blonde-haired vampire boy. Kiba. If you don't start moving those little legs boy, I'm gonna slice them off. Issei deadpanned as he crossed his arms. Issei. Why the fuck does this remind me of The Witcher? The brown-haired boy looked down at Kaneko who was standing next to him. Issei. Has Kiba done anything like this before? He's acting like a natural. Kaneko shook her head. Kaneko. No, he hasn't. Gaspar soon sat down at the base of the tree, panting heavily as Kiba looked down at him. Gaspar. I don't understand why you have to be so mean to me. Kiba. I'm not trying to be mean, but you have to get strong if you want to protect your king. Issei. Well, he seems to be enjoying himself. Gaspar. I can't do this anymore. What do say doesn't matter if my legs won't work. Kaneko walked up to Gaspar. Kaneko. Gaspy, you'll feel better if you eat this. Gaspar looked at Konko and much to his horror, the white-haired cat devil had Farlik in her hands. Gaspar. No way. Are you trying to kill me? Gaspar soon started to run away from Kaneko, who began chasing the poor vampire boy. Kaneko. This is no time to be picky. Come on, you can wash it down with some holy water. Gaspar. As Issei watched, he couldn't help but chuckle a little because he had to admit that this was starting to become amusing. Issei. Okay, I take back what I said. This is starting to become amusing. Asia. Where did she even get those? Tiba. Same place she gets her sweets. Issei laughed a little, but he soon grabbed Kaneko by the collar of her shirt and picked her up like a kitten. Kaneko. Issei. I think that is enough, kitty. Kaneko. Meow. Just then, Sona's pawn Saji walked around the corner and saw Issei and the others. Saji. Hey guys. Having fun? Issei looked at the blonde. Issei. Why are you here? Saji. Heard Ria's finally released her dangerous bishop. So I wanted to check things out. Soon Saji looked over and saw Gasper. Saji. What? Another pretty blonde. Issei. That's a boy. At that moment, Saji held his head down in disappointment. Saji. A dude. Oh why have I been forsaken? Issei. What the fuck is wrong with this dude? Suddenly, Issei sensed something close by and quickly turned toward a tree and pointed at it. The others stared at him confused, but soon a small purple beam was fired from the tip of his finger and sliced the tree in half. The upper half of the tree fell over and revealed none other than Azazel, the leader of the fallen angels. Azazel. Whoa, talk about cutting it close. That nearly sliced my hair off my head. Everyone went into a defensive stance as Issei titled his head. Issei. Why are you here, fallen? Azazel held his hands up. Azazel. Whoa now, I'm not here to cause any trouble. I just heard the Red Dragon Emperor was in town. He soon noticed Gasper. Azazel. Hey, you adorable vampire. Gasper flinched. Azazel. Forbidden Baylor view, you know this type of sacred gear is extremely dangerous when the user's energy is low. Azazel then looked over at Saji. Azazel. And let me guess, you have the prison dragon's pulse. Absorbing line, right. During practice, you should get that one to connect to the vampire so he can take away that extra power he can't control. You're welcome in advance. Saji. Take away his power. I can do that. Azazel. Don't tell me you didn't know. Your sacred gear has the power of the evil prison dragon king. It scatters the power it comes into contact with. Of course, attaching it to something else for a short period of time is another perk. This surprised Saji as he looked at his hand, the one where his sacred gear was located in surprise. Saji. This thing's more badass than I originally thought. Azazel. Although, I actually think there is a faster way to go about it. Issei. Oh yeah? And what may that be? Azazel smirked. Azazel. He can drink the Red Dragon Emperor's blood. That's the better option, but I'm sure you'll figure something out. But that he began to walk off, Issei watched him leave as he can't help but feel like that man is gonna be both helping him and being against him in the future. Time skip brought to you by Issei preparing for war. It was a new day in the town of Kuo, the sun was high in the sky, and the birds were singing. But that wasn't all. Today was also the day that the meeting between the three factions leader would take place. Currently, someone was floating in the air above the school. This person was a handsome young man with light silver hair and hazel eyes. He wore a dark green V-neck shirt with a high-collared black leather jacket over it. He also wears burgundy jeans with a silver chain drooping down over them and black leather chaps with 3 bands encircling his right calf and black shoes with black buckles. However, that wasn't all because from his back he had a pair of wings that were very familiar. Tonight's finally the night. All the higher-ups are gathering to discuss the most boring issue to be discussed. Just then the boy looked down and saw a black-haired girl standing on a pole, surprising him. I thought there was nothing left in this boring world to interest me. Office. The girl named Office looked back at the boy. Office. That's what you normally say, isn't it, Volley? Volley. Because it's the truth. There's nothing left in this boring world to interest me. Office. I wouldn't be too sure. This got the silver-haired boy's attention and he wondered what Office was talking about. Volley. What do you mean? Office simply smiled. Office. Let's just say that an old friend of mine is gonna make a show for us all. Volley was confused about this, who could the black-haired girl be talking about? Meanwhile with Issei. Issei. So Infinite is nearby, huh? Issei was sitting in the club room, waiting for this stupid meeting to begin. He can't believe that Kaneko is making him stick around for this because she has the feeling that something might happen. Why does she even bother asking him when she is gonna have to stick with the vampire? Riaz. Alright, time to go. Issei. Fucking finally. Riaz looked at Gasper. Riaz. Gasper, behave yourself while we're gone. Gasper. Okay. Riaz. Now, I don't mean to scold. But if you activate your power, it could stall the meeting and we don't want that. I hope you understand. Gasper. Yes ma'am. Riaz. But Kaneko is gonna be staying here and taking care of you, isn't that right? Kaneko nodded her head, she looked at the vampire boy and pulled out a box of snacks. Kaneko. I also stocked up on snacks for us. Asper. Wow. I don't even know where to begin. Issei sighed. Issei. Can we go already? Riaz. Okay. But that, Riaz and the others minus Kaneko and Gasper made their way out of the occult research club and toward the school building. When they made it inside, they walked up to the top floor where the meeting would be taking place. They soon arrived at the meeting room and Riaz knocked on the door. Riaz. May we come in? She opened the door and walked inside with her peerage following her. When they entered, Issei saw Sona, Tsubaki, Surziches, Serafal, Azazel, Vali, Zenobia, Irina, and a man he guessed was the leader of the Angel faction. Surziches. Everyone is here. This is my sister, Riaz, and her peerage. They're the ones fought against Kakabiel during his surprise attack a few days ago. Angel leader. That is a rather impressive feat. I thank each one of you for all your hard work. Issei silently scoffed to himself, he was the one who took down Kakabiel and his whole operation. In fact, he didn't even need to use the boosted gear or any of his powers. He just punched the bastard into submission. Time skip brought to you by Issei knocking out Vali. Issei leaned against the wall as the summit continued, both Sona and Riaz were going over the details of what happened during the Kakabiel incident. Not really a surprise, but they kept out the fact that Riaz had the power of the God of the Void and Issei was the ultimate lifeform. Lying to the leaders of the factions, talk about amusing. Riaz. The rest of the details regarding the incident between Kakabiel and my household can be found in my official report. Sona. As a witness, I Sona Citri can confirm the report given by Lady Gremory. Surziches. That will be all, thank you very much. Serafal looked at Sona and Riaz, smiling at them both. Serafal. Great job, ladies. Surziches turned his attention to Azazel. Surziches. Perhaps the Governor-General of the Fallen Angels cares to share his opinion on the report. Azazel. Kakabiel went rouge and did it behind my back. Therefore, my thoughts on it don't really matter that much. Angel leader. So he acted entirely on his own? Azazel. Well, he never had my permission if that's what you're asking. But something tells me the damn fool wouldn't have tried to destroy the whole town if he knew I was staying here. I've grown quite fond of this little place. Surziches. Try to stay on topic, if you please. Azazel. Well, I had sent the White Dragon Emperor in to resolve the issue, but he didn't have to do much since the Red Dragon Emperor had already defeated him. As for Kakabiel himself, he's frozen stiff in the lower level of hell. He won't bother you again. Angel leader. What I find most troubling about the attack itself is his motivation. It seems he was rather dissatisfied with the status. Azazel. Yeah, the war ending halfway through really stuck him the wrong way. What he really wanted was perpetual combat. But at this late stage in the game, I have no interest in starting a war. Serafal. The seeds of discontent. Azazel. That behavior isn't exclusive to my faction. Surziches sighed. Surziches. Again, I ask that we stay focused on the matter at hand. After all, that is why we're here. Azazel. Spare me. Let's just make peace and be done with it. That's the purpose of this grand summit, isn't it? Of course it is. Everyone was taken aback at first, but soon they just stared at Azazel. Azazel. Our little three-way deadlock is getting rather old and hardly doing this world any favors. I assume we're all in agreement on that. Angel leader. Both God and the Devil King are gone. Both of our war generals have been annihilated. Azazel. We have a complication. Once again, it's not even our three powers. But as you know, these forces are equally if not more destructive, and they are. Azazel. The Red Dragon Emperor. Azazel. And the White Dragon Emperor, so I'd like to hear their thoughts on the matter. Ali. What I like is to fight someone who's as strong as me. Azazel. Yes, but you can still find a lot of powerful opponents without having a war. Ali. I suppose. Azazel chuckled as he looked over at Issei. Azazel. Well, Red Dragon. Any thoughts? Everyone looked at the brown-haired boy who simply scoffed, his eyes glowing with a menacing purple aura. Issei. I do not care for any of this, for all I care you can all die. This shocked everyone, they didn't expect the Red Dragon Emperor to be so aggressive. Sona, Tsubaki, Riaz, and her peerage on the other hand weren't as surprised since they knew who Issei really was, thanks to Kakabiel basically spilling the beans. However, before anyone could say anything they soon felt a pressure and in a matter of seconds, everyone but Riaz, Zenobia, Serafal, Irina, Azazel, the angel leader, Issei, Vali, and Surziches were frozen where they were. Issei. What the hell? Tiba. They're frozen. Issei narrowed his eyes, this wasn't the work of Asterith. No, this had to be the work of Gasper's sacred gear. Azazel. It appears so. Fortunately, those of us superior powers weren't affected. Bali looked at Issei. Bali. Thanks to our dragons, they protected us. The heavenly bunch over there were shielded by their swords. Suddenly, everyone heard an explosion from outside and looked out the windows to see a massive group of cloaked figures. Seraphol. Magicians. Issei. Magicians. You kidding me? Seraphol. They're so rude. I'm a real-life magic girl and they're flat out ignoring me. Angel leader. But, what is this power? Azazel. It's the half-vampire boy, he must have been forced into making balance breaker conditions for them. Surziches. He has the power to stop time, I think it's safe to say yes. It is him. Gasper has fallen into enemy hands. Riaz gritted her teeth as her eyes started to glow gold. Riaz. Magicians dare take members of my household, they will pay with their lives. Azazel, looks like we've been cornered, wouldn't you agree, Michael? The leader of the angels named Michael nodded his head. Michael. Indeed, their timing, along with their use of Lady Gremory's bishop, couldn't have been more perfect. Surziches. I recommend we take action soon. If they somehow found a way to make Gasper even stronger, none of us will survive. Azazel. So we need to take care of the vampire kid and like now. Bali raised an eyebrow at this. Bali. Wouldn't it be easier to take out the half-vampire with the magicians? If you like, I could just do it for you. The fallen angel leader looked back at the White Dragon Emperor. Azazel. Vali, try and be a little more considerate, okay? After all, we're trying to make peace here. Vali smirked. Vali. Sorry, it's hard for me to do nothing like this. Azazel chuckled. Azazel. Fair enough, why don't you go welcome those magicians? Upset their rank some, seeing the White Dragon Emperor should help. Vali. Of course. With that, Vali jumped out the window, and summoning his wings he flew toward the magicians. Vali. Here we go. Balance break. Just then a bright white light engulfed Vali, blinding the magicians as the boy began to get covered in dragon armor. Vanishing dragon, balance breaker. Issei stared at Vali's armored form and crossed his arms. Issei. Show off. The magicians started to fire numerous attacks at Vali, but all they did was bounce off him as he just floated in the air with his arms crossed. Vali. Pitiful. Vali then sent a barrage of blue lightning which took out numerous magicians in an instant. Issei shook his head as he punched a hole in the window. Surziches. Issei, where are you going? Issei. Where else? To get what mine? Seraphol. Wait, you can't go out there alone. You'll be killed. Riaz simply sighed. Riaz. Don't bother you two, he does what he wants. Seraphol looked at the crimson red-haired girl. Seraphol. But aren't you his king? Riaz. Yes, but even if that was the case. He's not the Issei I once knew. Meanwhile. Within an unknown place stood a large throne room, the sheer size of it was unlike anything known in human history. The room was so big that it could hold up to maybe 100 or more people. Sitting on the throne itself, however, was a person wearing a white robe. They appeared to be either sleeping or in deep thought about something, but that all changed when they sensed something. Evil. This aura. It's full of malice and darkness. They went quiet as they were sensing something. They had never sensed anything like this before, it was something unordinary to the person. Strange. This power, it isn't magic. It feels unnatural. The person went quiet again, but after a minute they soon stood up. They couldn't let something evil run around in the world and terrorize innocent people. No, they had to find out the source of this dreadful aura and put a stop to it. I will find the source of this evil and eliminate it, I have to. The person's hood seemed to fall back to reveal the person underneath the hood. The person was a woman who could possibly be described as the most beautiful woman that anyone would ever see. No matter what. Back with Issei. Issei sighed. Issei. That was a waste of my time. Currently, Issei was making his way back toward the school building after he went to rescue both Kaneko and Gasper from the magicians. He managed to get the vampire boy to calm down enough to stop the whole time stopping, but that was mainly cause Issei threatened to rip his skull out if he didn't. Kaneko was being held at the back of her shirt like a kitten, and Gasper was being dragged in Issei's other arm. Kaneko. Sorry, senpai. Gasper. Why yeah, sorry. Issei. Just. Shut up. Gasper did just that, the trio made their way back to the school, and as they did they saw Azazel come crashing to the ground and forming a Looney Tunes-style crater. The leader of the fallen groaned as he crawled out, surprisingly with only one arm. Azazel. You got me. Must be losing my edge. He turned and smirked. Azazel. Bad, Vali. Everyone looked up and saw Vali in the air. Issei. What the fuck did we miss? Riaz. Vali, you betrayed us. Azazel. I understand, but there's something I'd like to ask you. Vali. Azazel sprouted his wings and flew up to Vali. Azazel. I've been informed that a faction has been gathering dangerous members of the three factions. What were they called? Oh yes, the Cows Brigade. Surziches. Cows, sounds accurate. Seraphol. Whoever is in charge must be strong. Why would anyone gather such dangerous people together? Azazel smirked. Azazel. So, I bet I can guess who's leading you. It has to be Office, the Ouroboros dragon. When Azazel said that name, everyone stared at him with an expression of shock, while Issei on the other hand was interested. He wondered what Office was up to this time. She must have a plan for gathering all these people together. Riaz. Office, it can't be. Bali. Yes, it is true. I have sided with Office. But believe me, not one of us has the slightest interest in world domination. We're just a group who formed to use our powers. And that's all. Azazel. Well, that makes more sense. Working with Kateria seemed not your style, but still. Both of you had devil titles stolen from you. Everyone's eyes widened when they heard this. Seraphol. He's a devil king dissident too. Bali. My name is Vali Lucifer. Surziches. What? Issei. Oh, so Morningstar had a kid. Bali. I'm a direct descendant of one of the dead devil kings. My mother was a human, so I'm a half-blood. My father was the grandson of the former great devil king, Lucifer. Surziches. Of course, half-human. There's no way we could have known. Azazel. Well, you have the blood of a real devil king. Since you are also a human, you just happen to be able to be possessed by the vanishing dragon. So basically, your very existence is a joke. Bali chuckled as he showed everyone his devil wings, his 10 wings. Bali. I'd go with Miracle personally. But to each their own. Asia. Look at his wings. Bekeno. He has 10 of them. Michael. Dear God. Azazel narrowed his eyes. Azazel. I have a feeling that this one might be the greatest white dragon emperor the world has ever seen, past, present, and future. Issei sighed in annoyance as he stepped forward and summoned the boosted gear. Issei. Is this the part where we fight or just talk like little children? Everyone watched as Issei jumped into the air and punched Bali in the face, sending the white dragon emperor flying back a good couple of feet. Bali. Arg. Issei landed on the ground, causing it to shake from the impact. The three faction leaders stared at the brown-haired boy with looks of surprise and interest. They didn't expect the Red Dragon Emperor to be that strong. However, Azazel knew better. Issei didn't even bother to boost his power to fight Bali. That could only mean one thing, this fight was gonna be a joke. Bali. I will admit that a strong right hook you did there. But I wouldn't be caught off guard now. White one. Bali, look at the gauntlet. Bali. Huh. Why, Albion. Albion. Just do it. Infused by the dragon's request, Bali stared at the boosted gear, and when he did he was shocked by what he saw. But it wasn't just him, the others looked as well, and their pupils became smaller from what they saw. The boosted gear was cracking. Surziches. How is that possible? Seraphol. But how? Michael. No way. Azazel. Interesting. Ria's eyes widen. Riaz. Destoroyah, you didn't. Albion Red 1, what is the meaning of this? Silence. Albion. Red 1. Silence again. Albion Red 1. Once again, silence. Albion. DDRAIG, answer me. Issei chuckled. Issei. I'm afraid he can't answer you. Albion. And why not? The brown-haired boy smirked, his eyes glowing purple, and everyone watched as Issei did something that shouldn't be possible. He took the boosted gear off his arm. He held the gauntlet toward Vali, who simply stared in shock, unable to utter a word at what he was witnessing before him. Issei. Because. He's gone. With that, Issei crashed the boosted gear and dropped it onto the ground. Third person POV. There is an old saying, it goes like this. Heroes always get remembered, but everyone knows legends never die, and that's true. Today is the day that my master plan is finally fulfilled. Today is the day that all the pieces come together. They all learn the truth, the real truth of the being they called monster. Silence. Dread. Fear. Horror. That is what Vali, Albion, Sona, Tsubaki, Riaz, her peerage, and the leaders of the three factions could hear and all they could feel. The air around everyone was so quiet and so thin that you could not only cut it with a knife, but dropping a pin on the ground would be as loud as a nuclear bomb going off right next to them. Did they just hear what Issei said? DDRAIG was gone. The boosted gear was destroyed. Albion. What do you mean, he's gone? Issei let out a chuckle and a malicious grin. Issei. Like I said. He's gone and is never coming back. Those like Azazel and Michael were left completely shocked by this, for they have witnessed the power of the Welsh dragon of domination. His battle against Albion was something that no one would ever forget. Sure, it was during the Great War, but that didn't change the fact that those two beasts alone caused much more destruction than the armies of hell and heaven themselves. Hell, even God himself wasn't able to cause much destruction. Most likely due to his weakened state, thanks to his battle against both the god of the void and the ultimate lifeform. Sona. Issei, explain. What happened to Welsh Dragon? Issei growled as he turned and fired a small purple beam at Sona, purposely missing her face as the beam struck the school and basically leveled the entire building in an instant. The leaders quickly summoned barriers to protect everyone, but they themselves were shocked by what they had just saw. To make things worse, they can tell that he was holding back on that attack as well. It was more like a threat. Issei. I'd be silent if I were you, devil. I'm going to save all of you until I'm done with the white fool. Issei turned to Vali and gave him a malicious grin that would strike fear into beings like God, Office, and Great Red. Issei. Time to destroy. Vali gritted his teeth behind his helmet as he could feel the aura and bloodlust from Issei. It wasn't like anything he had ever felt before. Could this be the one that Office mentioned? Is Issei Haidu, if that is even his name anymore? Her old friend. Vali gathered what was left of his courage and pride and looked at Issei. Vali. HMPH. Very well. Issei Haidu, I will gladly fig. Back. In just a blink, Issei delivered a devastating blow to his stomach, destroying the balance breaker. This sent Vali, who was now out of his balance breaker, flying. Issei quickly took the chance to sprout his wings and take off after the silver-haired boy. He had no reason to fight him in the first place. He didn't care about the rivalry between the Red and White Dragon Emperors. No, the latter was simply doing all of this because he was bored and seeking a form of entertainment. Issei. Oh. Don't tell me that you're finished from just one punch. As Issei was chasing after Vali, he got a glimpse of Office, who was watching the entire thing from the pole. The Infinity Dragon God smiled at the brown-haired boy and watched as he chased after Vali with insane speed. Normally she would do something like freeze time and talk to him, and while that will work on everything in the universe, except for a handful of beings. Issei, or rather Destoroyah, was different. Anything to do with time, whether it be freezing time, slowing it down, fast-forwarding, going to the past or the future. None of it seemed to affect him, which made no sense if one thought about it, since if they were to scale the Titan of Terror to Office, he was far weaker than she was. And yet, his aura alone is enough to make even Office herself afraid of him. Vali crashed into one of the many buildings that were within Kuo and held his stomach in pain. Vali. Fuck. That her. Just then, Vali started to cough up some blood. However, he soon wiped his mouth and saw Issei coming forward to him very quickly. Vali. Shit. Albion. Balance breaker, quickly. Albion. On it. The balance breaker appeared and Vali tried to use Divine Divided to weaken Issei. Albion. Divide. However, instead of getting weaker like Vali hoped he would, the complete opposite happened. Issei didn't appear to be affected by his Sacred Gear's abilities. This shocked Vali, as he had ever come across an opponent that was immune to his powers. Vali. Shy. Before he could finish his sentence, Issei slammed into the White Dragon Emperor and grabbed his head. He growled and started to slam him into the ground repeatedly before throwing him with immense strength. Vali summoned two wide orbs and blasted them toward Issei, who slapped them away like they were nothing. Issei. You know. This is getting embarrassing for you. Issei's eyes started to glow purple as he grew a sinister grin. Vali's eyes widened as he watched Issei fire a purple beam toward him. The White Dragon Emperor managed to dodge the attack, but that didn't mean that the attack do anything at all. It landed in a part of the town and caused a massive explosion which killed any people who were in the area. There were a lot of people in the area, so Issei nearly took out half the town with that one attack. Giba. What the? Surzich. He destroyed half the town. Zenobia. From one attack alone. Irina placed a hand on her chest. This couldn't be Issei. It can't be the boy she grew up with, the boy who she secretly had a crush on since they were children. Irina. Issei. Riaz gritted her teeth. She knew that this was only the beginning. Issei wasn't even taking this battle seriously. She could tell because of the memories she obtained after she made a deal with the god of the void, Ghidorah. How could such a monster be reincarnated into someone as kind as Issei? She was sure that he didn't want this. The real Issei would never harm innocent people. And part of her knew it was her fault that Destoroyah was now back because Issei heard her and Akeno's conversation that day about getting rid of him and taking the sacred gear which was now destroyed. Riaz. Damn it, if only I didn't say that. This is all my fault. Riaz had to fix this. She was the cause of all this. She has to be the one to fix this problem before things turn out worse. She needs to find a way to bring the real Issei Haidu out of that monster. Maybe she can use her body to do it. No, she can't do that. Issei won't be affected as he did in the past. She needs someone else, someone close to Issei. Just then, an idea came to Ria's mind as she looked at Kaneko. The white-haired devil girl and Issei were basically lovers at this point. She is the one that will save Issei from being trapped within that titian of terror. Ria's. Maybe, Kaneko could bring him back. We can only hope. Suddenly, everyone heard an explosion as they saw Issei throw volley into the ground. The descendant of the original Lucifer was covered in marks and blood, half of his balance breaker was shattered along with his sacred gear, he had a black eye, and he held his right arm. Or rather what used to be the location of his right arm. Issei. Had enough. Volley got up and glared at Issei. Volley. You haven't seen my true power. Albion Volley, are you sure about this? There is no guarantee that this will actually work. Volley gritted his teeth. Volley. We gotta try, Albion. I refuse to lose to this monster. Albion sighed. Albion. Okay, partner. I'm with you. Volley nodded his head as he was then engulfed by a light blue aura. Issei raised his eyebrow as he wondered what he was gonna turn into. The brown-haired boy decided to humor the White Dragon Emperor and allow him to power up and use his true power. It won't make a difference in the end, since Issei could have killed him before this entire battle even started. But he hasn't done that because he wants to see if anyone can even come close to making him use half his power. So far the only one who has ever done that is Ghidorah and God, but those battles were a long time ago. Volley. I, who am about to awaken, am the heavenly dragon who lost all to the principles of supremacy. I envy the infinite, and I pursue the dream I shall become the white dragon of supremacy. He watched as Volley transformed from his balance breaker into a massive, bigger than an entire building-size wide armored dragon with golden eyes. Issei has to admit that while the light show is impressive, it isn't necessary since he won't be alive for much longer to even use this new powered-up form. Issei. Oh, so this is the Juggernaut drive. Volley let out a monstrous dragon roar and looked at Issei, who simply chuckled at this challenge before him. Issei. Well then, my turn. Issei's eyes changed from the usual purple to a familiar green color, a color that Albion knew all too well. It was the same color as the gem that DDRAIG resided within. The Western dragon couldn't believe he was gonna say this, but he missed that old salamander already. Boost. Both Volley and Albion were shocked. Issei was using the boosted gear's abilities, and he didn't even have a sacred gear. Something like that shouldn't be possible. Then again, the brown-haired boy is the one who basically killed the Welsh dragon of domination, so it's 100% likely that he took his powers as well. Albion. What is the meaning of this? How do you have DDRAIG's powers and how are you using the powers without the boosted gear? Issei. Because I can. Issei raised his hand and fired another purple beam toward Volley, who quickly dodged it. But little did they know that the attack Issei had just done was actually a distraction. Before Volley could even turn to face his opponent once again, Issei appeared beside him and kicked him on the head, sending him flying. As Volley was sent flying, Issei charged toward him once again, and his right arm started to glow purple. The silver-haired boy didn't get a chance to do anything as he was struck in the chest and sent crashing into Kuo Academy, or rather what was left of it anyways. The onlookers could only watch with expressions of pure shock and horror. The White Dragon Emperor, who was known throughout history as one of the most powerful beings ever, was getting his ass kicked. Azazel. How is this possible? How is he beating Volley? Especially when he's in Juggernaut Drive. Mikhail. Such raw power. Such viciousness. He's a monster. Surziches. Just what have you become, Issei Haidu? Serafal. So powerful. Issei landed on top of Volley, basically crushing the latter's ribs from the force of the impact. Issei. You did well. Not really. Issei smirked and began mercilessly stomping on Volley's chest, breaking even more of his bones with each stomp. Riaz and the others watched in horror as Volley screamed out in pain and agony. The brown-haired boy soon grabbed the White Dragon Emperor's wings and grinned. Issei. Now, time to claim what is mine. Volley. And no. Dawn. Cutting off Volley, Issei ripped the divine dividing wings off his back, which caused immense pain within the descendant of the original Lucifer, immense pain and agony. Albion. Volley. Because he ripped the sacred gear off his back, the Juggernaut Drive armor crumbled off Volley and revealed the battered and defeated boy. Volley. Why you fucking bastard. I'll kill you. I swear I will fucking end your entire existence. Getting annoyed with all the shouting, Issei raised his foot and put an end to the Lucifer bloodline once and for all by stomping on Volley's head, crushing it in the process. Blood splattered across the ground and the debris of Kuo Academy, Riaz, and the others stared on in complete horror at what they had just witnessed. Those with weaker stomachs like Asia, Gasper, and Arena either puked or fainted from the event they had just witnessed. But that wasn't it, no, it was only the beginning. Issei turned his attention to the sacred gear in his hands, which soon started glowing purple, signaling that he was absorbing everything that the sacred gear had. the abilities and the knowledge that Albion possessed, which meant killing him. Albion. Arg. Stop. Issei chuckled as he continued absorbing all of the vanishing dragon's power. The once blue wings started to turn gray. Albion. No. Val. Albion didn't get to finish his sentence as Issei finished absorbing everything that he had. Grinning like a maniac, he tossed the now powerless sacred gear to the side. Everyone was left speechless. Volley Lucifer was dead. The last member of the original Lucifer bloodline was now no more. Fear started to fill them all as they stared at Issei. How is it possible that one person did all this with no magic, sacred gear, or assistance from any allies? He wasn't human, and there was no way that he was devil. Surziches now understands that, and everyone else now does. Issei Haidu was a fucking monster. The most shocked out of everyone was Kaneko. She placed a hand on her chest as she stared at the one she calls lover. This can't be Issei, it can't be the same one who saved her from being raped. That Issei was kind-hearted, pure of heart, and willing to sacrifice himself for others. But the one before her wasn't that. He wasn't her lover, she can't even describe it since she feels only sadness and fear. The brown-haired boy placed his hand on his face, then slowly started to chuckle, and then it became a maniacal cackle. Issei. I'm one step closer. One step closer to my goal. The latter stared up into the sky, his eyes flaring with a purple aura. Issei. You hear me, you bastard. I'm getting closer to what I once was. He could feel no, he could see him was in fear. Knowing that their battle is approaching. Issei knew that Astaroth was trying to erase him from the universe by killing off his past self, but that shall be the death of the time demon. The brown-haired boy existed everywhere and nowhere at the same time, therefore his past self is also his present self. However, Yahweh wasn't the one who he was talking about. The one that Issei was talking about was someone who had been within him since the beginning of his creation, for he was just the mere shadow of something that was created for greatness. Well, to explain it in better detail. Issei will have to go back to the very beginning of where it all began. The moment he was created alongside the one who made him nothing more than a mere shadow of something greater. The one who had betrayed him, in fact, one could say that Destoroyah has been betrayed 3 times. You see, before there was anything. Before there was the world, the universe, the multiverse, or even the void between it all. There was only a single entity, a malevolent entity and sentient force from a place called the last reality. This being was the first primordial entity that existed before the birth of anything. It went by many names, mainly it was known as the Nothingness. Little was known about entity, not even the true appearance of the nothing, but it is speculated that the nothing is the embodiment of nothingness. From the nothing came a burst of pure creation, giving rise to 2 beings of great power. The first being was the 0 point, an omnipotence entity, and the second primordial entity born after the nothing. The 0 point is the reason why the Big Bang was created, but it didn't simply create the universe. No, the energy burst from the 0 point was so powerful that it actually did more than intended. Cause of this. It was because of the origin of all reality in the omniverse. But the 0 point wasn't the only one that was created, the nothing made 2 beings of great power. For you see, Issei was also a primordial created from the nothing. However, he became nothing more than a mere shadow of the 0 point's infinite power. At first, he hated this and wanted to one-up his brother. But he soon came to realize something. After watching all the lives the 0 point created, there was one thing that stood out to him. If he wants something, then he should go and take it. The nothing created 2 beings of great power. That was a lie. Issei never had any power. He was only meant to watch and observe for all of eternity what his brother has created, unable to do anything. Just observe. But no more, the 0 point has been in the spotlight for far too long, and now it was time for the ultimate lifeform, the primordial darkness, to rise up and consume the light. What exactly happened shall not be said, but Destoroyah was forced to take many forms over the centuries. One day he was a fish who swam in a lake, the next he was a bird flying high in the sky. The next he was an ant that walked along with his comrades, the next he was a mighty beast such as a dinosaur, or rather, a supernatural being like a dragon, a hydra, or rather, a god. Issei has been them all, he has lived and died as them throughout the many centuries. But it wasn't just them, he has turned into humans as well, and even their alternative versions. And if anyone was wondering, yes, that includes things that could only be described as fictional or imaginary. Issei grinned and was one step closer to his goal. Suddenly, he sensed something as he turned his head toward the source and saw someone. A hooded figure. The others were also shocked by the stranger's sudden appearance. The leaders were the most shocking cause they didn't even sense them teleport in. Everyone felt a powerful aura coming from the person, and while they shivered in fear, the only ones who weren't affected were Issei and Riaz. In fact, Issei chuckled as his eyes glowed purple. Issei. You sure took your time, Artoria. The figure grabbed their hood and pulled it back to reveal a gorgeous blonde-haired woman who possessed the most beautiful eyes anyone had ever seen. Her aura also felt different now, this time it was full of grace, power, and most of all, royalty. Michael. K. King Arthur. Irina. You mean? Zenobia. Arthur Pendragon, the first wielder of Excalibur. Artoria only focused her attention on Issei as she sensed the same energy of her greatest foe from back then dwelling within him. Both Issei and Artoria had a stare down with each other, both started getting covered by a powerful aura that seemed to be affecting the fabric of reality around them both. Riaz was shocked, she possessed the memories of Ghidorah, and none of them involved the first wielder of Excalibur at all. Did this mean that Destoroyah had faced her long before he and the God of the Void met each other? Artoria. It's been a long time, my greatest foe. Issei growled at the blonde-haired woman, but he soon let out a dark chuckle that sent shivers down everyone's spine. That chuckle was filled with nothing but pure malice, something that both Azazel and Michael have never felt before. Issei. It has indeed, but I'm not talking to you, bitch. My enemy is that sword, the true Excalibur, which carries a part of my brother within it. Artoria silently gripped her sword as she continued to look at Issei. Irina. Wait, that is Excalibur. But I thought that it was split into the holy swords that the church has. Michael. I am also confused as well, that is what I believed as well. Artoria heard their questions, the swords that they possessed were nothing more than mere shells, compared to the true Excalibur. God feared that one day Destoroyah would come back, so he gave it to Artoria and told her to go into hiding with it until the day comes that the universe needs its most powerful weapon. With all of God's powers within the blade, it should be strong enough to slice the entire planet in half. But Issei can sense a part of his brother, the 0 point within the blade, which means that it has been strengthened to the level that it can not only slice through planets, but other things like space, time, reality, and infinity. Looks like his brother wants to prevent him from achieving his goal. Artoria. I'm afraid to tell you that those Excaliburs are nothing but mere shells compared to the true Excalibur. Michael. But, father said. Artoria. I know what he said, but he said that so that all the supernaturals or anyone would go after the real Excalibur. Irina. But why? Issei. Enough talk. Issei charged toward Artoria with insane speed, one of his fists glowing purple as he prepared to punch the woman. Artoria dodged the swing and quickly sliced off Issei's hand, causing blood to splat across the ground. Artoria. You left yourself open. Issei only chuckled as his hand quickly grew back, this caused Artoria to narrow her eyes. She was told by Yahweh himself that Destoroyah has an insane level of regeneration, unlike anything he had seen before. Issei. I expected nothing less. His mouth glowed purple as he fired a beam at point-blank range, but Artoria was able to dodge the attack in time and put some distance between her and Issei. Even she knows that it's foolish to try and block that attack, those beams were unlike anything within the universe. She can recall God telling her that he tried everything to stop those beams, stopping time, altering reality and space around them. It did nothing. The beams were filled with the essence of Destoroyah's original form, primordial essence that cannot be stopped by normal means. Artoria. I know the risk of being hit by those beams. Issei chuckled as he grabbed a piece of the destroyed Kuo Academy and threw it toward the woman who stared at the object with a serious expression. Excalibur started to glow golden as she swung it, slicing the piece of rubble in half. Artoria. You're gonna need to try better than Tha. Artoria's eyes widened as Issei was in front of her. The brown-haired boy started to strike a woman with his fist which was glowing purple. Artoria started to block the attacks and strike back when she could, but something wasn't adding up. Her Excalibur should be decimating the latter's fist with each blow, even if he had regenerated, but the Titan of Terror's fists seemed to be perfectly able to handle the blows coming from Excalibur. Artoria. How? How is he able to do this? Excalibur should be decimating his fists. Just then, she realized her mistake. That familiar purple glow again, no wonder he was surviving this long against her. Artoria. You're not powerful, you are simply a coward. Issei simply laughed as he continued to exchange blow to blow with Artoria, but soon enough she was able to get an opening and strike the boy in the chest. Issei. Was that meant to do anything? Artoria's eyes widened as she looked up, she fully expected there to be a massive wound on the brown-haired boy's chest. However, instead of that, there was nothing. Excalibur did nothing to Issei. This shocks not only Artoria, but the ones observing the fight as well. Michael, who knew the true extent of Excalibur's power, was shocked to see that the most powerful weapon had done nothing. Artoria quickly leaped back as she looked at the weapon in her hands and back at the monster before her. Artoria. How? Issei merely chuckled as he held up one of his hands. The purple aura that surrounded it changed into a type of flame for a brief moment before switching back to normal. Issei. Did you really think that I would let something empowered by my brother defeat me? Issei's eyes started flaring purple as his body started to change. A horn sprouted from his forehead. His wings grew bigger as a second pair sprouted underneath the first pair. His fingers changed into bone-like claws, and he grew a long tail that ends with a pincer-like appendage. Issei, I believe it's time for us to end this. Artoria. I agree, I didn't want to do this. But you leave me no choice. Issei narrowed his eyes. He knew what the blonde-haired woman was talking about. She was planning on using the full power of Excalibur, a risky move since it has enough power to slice the entire planet in half. But she has no other choice. Artoria can already guess that simply sword strikes won't leave any sort of mark on the Titan of Terror. She was sure that God would understand her choice. If he was here he would do the same thing, even if it meant risking the destruction of half the planet. It was then Artoria placed Excalibur in front of her and started to gather magical energy and channel it into the blade. At least that's what it looked like to the onlookers, but to Issei, he was exactly what Artoria was doing and decided to put his defenses up to the max, since not even he would be survived this unscathed. In reality, Artoria was not only gathering magical energy from the area, but she was actually gathering the magical energy, as well as the life force of the planet itself, and within them lies the hopes and dreams of every living being past, present, and future. Artoria. Alright. Let's finish this. But that call, the blade of Excalibur made out of the magical energy gathered extended till it almost reached the sky, and a huge wave of holy and divine energy washed over the entire area. The angels as well as the members of the church were shocked and in awe at the power of the legendary sword of the planet contained. Kiba was probably the most shocked since not even Excalibur of Destruction was not even close to this powerful, and it was considered the second strongest fragment. But seeing the magnitude of what the attack might hold, all of the leaders including Riaz and Sona prepared magical barriers in hopes to survive the attack, all while Issei stood his ground and waited to endure quite possibly one of the strongest attacks he had to endure. Artoria. Sheathed in the breath of the planet. Artoria. A torrent of shining life. Issei felt the ground beneath him shake and rumble. Artoria. Feels its wrath. Artoria took a step forward as a massive explosion of holy aura washed over Issei, causing the latter to narrow his eyes. It was then Artoria finally brought down the mighty blade, all while roaring out its name for all to hear. Artoria. Excalibur. But that mighty call, a large beam of pure holy and divine energy, engulfed not only Issei, but also the onlookers that were watching, as well as the majority of the town of Kuo. God, who felt the power of one of his greatest weapons, could feel only sadness since he knew what Artoria was doing is the right call and would probably be done the same in order to save his creations from that monster. As the light began to die down, Artoria turned her head toward the onlookers and saw that they weren't harmed in the crossfire, which was good. The attack's full force must have struck Issei, so all that would have happened to them would simply be being blinded by the holy light for a few seconds. Speaking of the Titan of Terror, she wondered if he was still alive. He couldn't have been because the ground in front of him was still intact. Well, for the most part, that is. Which meant that her attack actually managed to land a blow on the brown-haired boy. The blonde panted heavily as sweat started to run down her forehead. She was glad that the threat was no longer alive. All life in the universe was now safe. Michael, who was the first to stop rubbing his eyes, turned and looked at the woman. The others were still trying to fix themselves after being exposed to the bright light that came from Excalibur's attack. Michael. King Arthur. Artoria turned to the blonde-haired man and gave him a reassuring smile. Artoria. It's over. Suddenly, everyone heard a chuckle coming from the smoke. Eyes widen in shock and fear, and both Artoria and the onlookers quickly turned toward the source and saw none other than Issei, who was still alive and completely unfazed from the attack. The boy had a huge grin on his eyes. His eyes were basically flaring with a dark purple aura, and strange red lines were across his body, but that is not what everyone was staring at. No, what they were staring at was Issei's right hand. It was holding part of Excalibur. Artoria quickly looked at her weapon and to her horror, it was broken. One of, if not the most powerful weapons that God had ever created, was destroyed. Issei. I have to admit, you did well against me. Issei looked at the broken piece of Excalibur for a brief moment, then tossed it away. Issei. But even at your best, you were only able to make me use around 75% of what my base form is capable of. Hearing this shocked Artoria. 75% of his base form. He had other forms. Does he not see her as a threat or something? Artoria. Have you not been taking me seriously? Issei couldn't help but chuckle. Issei. Of course not, but you're not like others I've seen. You're an incredible woman, a powerful one at that. Artoria. Thank you. Artoria wasn't sure how to feel being called incredible, especially since it came out of the mouth of Destoroyah, who was the enemy of God and everything that basically lived. Hell, even Issei himself was confused about why he just called someone he was about to kill incredible. What the fuck did that attack do to him? Last time he checked, he didn't care about any human emotions, so why the fuck was he caring right now? Issei. Okay, what the fuck did that attack of yours do to me? Artoria. Why are you asking me? Issei. It was your attack. Artoria pouted as she crossed her arms, a small blush crawled on her face which made her look cute. Artoria. I don't know, Baka. Issei. Okay. That was adorable. Hearing this made Artoria blush even more. Everyone on the sidelines started sweat dropping from what they were watching now. Just a second ago, they both were enemies that were at each other's throats and now they have absolutely no idea what the hell was going on. Issei blinked as he couldn't believe what he had just said. This was either the result of him tanking the full power strike of Excalibur, or it was just the author trying to be a dickhead to him. Issei. I feel like another version of me is either grinning or ready to kill me. Heh, he can try. Artoria. I'm not adorable. Hineko narrowed her eyes as a dark aura started to cover her body. She stomped over to Artoria and looked at her in the eyes. Hineko. He's mine. Artoria blinked. Artoria. What? The white-haired devil girl pointed at Issei, who reverted back to his regular form at this point. He crossed his arms and raised an eyebrow. Hineko. He's mine. I don't care if you have massive tits. Artoria blushed as she covered her breast. What the hell was wrong with this girl? Why the hell did she make it sound like that Artoria had some romantic feelings for Issei? She didn't. They both were enemies, and that is that, nothing more or less. Issei sighed as he started to walk off. He was not dealing with this. Hell, he wasn't even gonna bother killing anyone. Third person Pav. Everyone has a past, something they are either not proud of or don't want to talk. Am I no different? I may be the primordial embodiment of darkness, but even then I still have untold history. Maybe it's because I am stuck in another human form, but it doesn't matter since everything is nearing the end. A day. The whole day has passed since the failed attack on the three factions leaders summit, the death of the White Dragon Emperor, and the shattering of Excalibur has spread throughout the supernatural world like wildlife. When they heard the news, they weren't sure how to react to this. However, the leaders of the three factions knew that they needed to speak to their people about Issei Haidu because the power they saw was unlike anything they have seen before. In the underworld. Everyone was gathered in the old war room that was used during the Great War because the leaders had to tell them about something and they weren't sure what it was, but it was very important. Devil number 1. Surziches, is there a reason why you called us here? Devil number 2. And why the hell is your sister here? On the sidelines, Riaz and her peerage minus Kaneko were standing there. The crimson red-haired girl had her arms crossed as she had an annoyed expression on her face. She didn't like the higher-ups in the underworld. However, none of that will matter as long as Issei, or rather Destoroyah, is still alive. They had to get rid of him no matter the cost. Surzich. I have something to discuss with you. Devil number 1. And what may that be? Devil number 3. It must be important if this is taking place after the leader summit at Kuo. Surzich exhales and explained the entire story, how Vali Lucifer is dead, DDRAIG is dead, Albion is dead and his power was taken, Excalibur was destroyed, and Issei was none other than Destoroyah. When he said this, many eyes widened in pure horror. Those who were a part of the Great War and survived remembered the Titan of Terror. No matter what they threw at him, no matter how much they tried, nothing worked against it. Destoroyah was too powerful for them. They also can recall the battle he had against Yahweh, which shouldn't have been possible. How could a mere beast challenge the creator of the universe and overwhelm him? Yahweh was omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. He could literally snap his fingers, and Destoroyah should have been gone, but even with his power to do anything, it was all pointless because Destoroyah was not a creature made by the Holy Father. In truth, no one knew where Destoroyah came from. His origins were completely unknown to everyone and everything. In fact, they weren't even sure if Destoroyah was his true name. Devil number 4. Why, you're kidding, right? There's no way that beast is back. Surziches sighed. Surziches. I'm afraid it's true. He's back. Devil number 4. And no, this has to be some sort of trick. There is absolutely no way that monster has returned after so many years. Seraphol stepped forward. Seraphol. It's all true, I saw the battle myself. Riaz. All of us have. She gestured to herself and her peerage. Riaz. But we can't just sit here with our tails in between our legs, we need to attack him before he unleashes his true form. Surziches. If we do that, then we risk exposing ourselves to humans. Riaz glared at her brother, her eyes glowing golden. Why the hell was he worried about something like that? They had more important things to worry about at the moment, such as the Titan of Terror that could have easily killed them all back at the Leader Summit. The crimson red-haired girl knew that he could have, but he didn't. She knew exactly what that was the case. He was playing with them, and he wants them to try and do something against him before he makes his move. Destoroyah isn't stupid. Riaz knew that due to her memories she obtained for Ghidorah. Destoroyah is very intelligent and likes to make people believe things, which is why she knows that Kaneko won't be alive for much longer. He was playing with the white-haired devil girl's emotions. Riaz sighed in annoyance. Riaz. Whatever. Serafal. Surziches, what should we do? You saw what he could do against Vali and the wielder of Excalibur. Surzich sighed and pinched the bridge of his nose. He wasn't sure what they could do. How could they face off against a monster that challenged God? Because he was bored and came out neatly killing the creator. The power he possessed was unlike anything they have faced before. To make it worse, he now possesses the power of both DDRAIG and ALBION, which meant he could theoretically boost his power indefinitely. Surzich. I don't know. Serafal. There must be something we can do. Surziches. Like what? We just watched a powerful weapon in the entire universe get shattered right before our eyes. Riaz. It would be easy for me to fight him, but I can't get exposed, not yet anyways. She possessed the power of the God of the Void, and yet so far she hasn't been able to do anything with them. Sure, there was that one point with Kakabiel where she summoned 2 astral heads, but even then that was only for a short period of time. She failed to keep up with that monster when he took off after Kakabiel. The crimson red-haired girl couldn't do anything, and she knew that it was all her fault. She thought that she wouldn't need to do anything since she obtained the power of Ghidorah, but turns out she was completely wrong about that. Riaz now knows that she has to take this full seriously. Her life isn't at stake anymore. Everyone's lives were now at risk if Destoroyah ever wants to kill them, and she knows that he plans on doing that. There is no goodness within that monster. Sure, there could be the chance that the real Issei is still inside there. But she isn't getting her hopes up, since he would have been gone by now. Issei Haidu was dead. All that was left is Destoroyah. Surzich. There has to be someone that can take him on. Oh, there is. Hearing the new voice instantly put people on guard. They thought that it was Destoroyah. But those like Surziches, Serafal, Riaz, and her peerage knew that it wasn't since they have heard the boy's voice. Just then, everyone saw someone stand up and approach the center of the room. Well, it wasn't really a person to say. It was more like an animal that someone could find in the human world, a bird. But something was strange about it. The eyes were glowing a purely blue color that appeared to radiate a form of energy around the small creature. Devil number 1. What the hell is that thing? Devil number 2. That's a bird, Dumbus. Devil number 1. I know, I'm asking why is it here? Devil number 3. I think we're about to find out. The bird walked to the center of the room and looked at everyone. Bird. Calm yourselves, devils. I mean you no harm. Devil number 4. Why should we believe you? The bird merely chuckled. Bird. Why would I desire to harm one of my many creations? Hearing that instantly sent alarms in the devil's heads. Was this being before them? God. Could it actually be the father of creation, the one who made the universe? Surzich. Creations. Wait. Are you? The bird shook its head. Bird. No, I'm not your so-called god. I am a being that is above him, far above him. Surzich. Then who are you? The bird turned its head to Surziches. Bird. Forgive me, Surziches Lucifer. I go by many names and titles such as the Big Bang, Creation, Everything, the Nexus Core, and much more. But you may call me the 0 Point, the primordial being of light and creator of the Omniverse. Many eyes widened when they heard the name of the 0 Point. It couldn't be. They had to be imagining all of this. There was absolutely no way that the being standing before them in the form of a bird was the 0 Point. Surzich. The strongest being in the Omniverse. The bird raised an eyebrow. How could there be a universe that knows of his existence? The last time he checked, no one should have known about the 0 Point's existence. Bird. How do you know th? Devil number 1. That's a lie if you are them. Prove it. Bird. If I were to show you my true form, you all would be dead. Although, I'm surprised you know about me. How is that possible when all the other multiverses I created do not? Surziches. We read books about you from our ancestors' journals. Bird. Strange, I haven't come into contact with any other being. Then again, I have been chasing my beloved for many eons now. Riaz. Wait, beloved. The bird turned its head toward Riaz. Bird. The one who all are talking about, Destoroyah or Issei Haidu. It doesn't matter, those are just one of the endless names he has lived during the eons I have searched for him. Riaz. You knew him. Bird. Of course, I know him more than anyone in this universe or in the Omniverse. Surziches. If that's true then who is he? Bird. He doesn't have an actual name like me, but he is known as the Primordial Darkness. He is. The Primordial Darkness. Indeed, he and I were both created from the nothing. The very first primordial. He is. But it only wrote about you being the first. It is true, I created the Omniverse. But compared to the nothing, my level of power is only as strong as an average human. This filled everyone with worry. Issei or Destoroyah was powerful, and the 0 point is the creator of the Omniverse. They do not want to know what the nothing is like. How could someone being the creator of everything and say that there is another being that makes them look like a simple human in terms of power? Riaz was sure that even with her power as the god of the void, she won't even lay a single scratch on either of them. Riaz. Fucking hell. Surziches. Why are you here, 0 point? If you don't mind me asking. The bird chuckled. I'm here to help you all. Devil number 3. Really? Seraphol. But why? My beloved is up to something, what it is. Even I do not know. Devil number 1. Well, what do we do? How do we kill that bastard? The bird turned its head toward the devil and shot a cold glare at him, sending a shiver down the devil's spine. Watch your tone, devil. No one speaks about my beloved like that. The devil quickly gulped as he hid, not wanting to piss off the 0 point. Devil number 1. I apologize. Seraphol. Why do you keep calling him beloved? Aren't you both male? Yes and no, primordials like us do not have genders but are depicted as male because of the tones in our voices. Seraphol. So you're both brothers and sisters at the same time? You are correct, Lady Leviathan. Seraphol. Whoa. Now I've seen everything. The bird chuckled. Currently, my clones are speaking with the other species of the supernatural. Telling them everything that I have told you all while I'm talking to you. Surziches. At the same time. The bird nodded. Yes, though a foolish demon is trying to erase my beloved from the time stream. Devil number 1. Isn't that good? No, my beloved can exist everywhere within and outside of time. In the past, present, and future. Devil number 2. Who tried to erase him from the time stream? I said, the foolish demon is trying. As for who it is, I believe you call him. Astareth. Surzich. Astareth. Everyone was shocked to hear that Astardo, the time demon, was still alive. They thought he had perished alongside Lucifer during the Great War, but it looks like they were wrong. This makes them wonder, who else is still alive from the Great War? Was God still alive? Was Lucifer still alive? Riaz. Wait, Astareth is attempting to erase Destoroyah from the time stream. Indeed he is, although. You can guess how that's gonna go. Meanwhile with Astareth. The demon of time wasn't sure how far he has gone back. Using his powers like this normally leaves him with splitting headaches at times, and he tends to lose focus. However, if God thinks that this is the only way to save the universe, then he has no other choice. There was absolutely no way that they could face Destoroyah in his current form. Sure, they could have killed him before he obtained his past memories. But now is out of the question. Astareth. Damn it. He has to push through. He had to. If he doesn't, then all is lost. After going back and backward in time for who knows how long, the black-haired man had arrived at his destination, the era where Destoroyah should be given birth into the world in the form he took. Astareth. Okay, I'm here. Arriving in time was the easy part, and he puts tons of phrasing on the word easy, since going forward and back in time can cause major damage within the time stream. Whenever someone hears the word time, they don't really think much, since who could really understand time? Well, unless you had mastery time. Time moves like a river, it flows calmly and perfectly. However, the slightest changes cause that river to break off into smaller ones. If that continues to happen, breaking them off into smaller and smaller ones, it could cause the entire time stream to break apart, which may end up destroying the universe. There had to be a balance for everything, which is why anyone knows wields the power over time knows not to mess with anything in the past or future, otherwise, they would be punished. Astareth is gonna have to break the rules, cause if he doesn't, no one wants to see that outcome. Astareth. Now, I have to find Destoroyah before he's born. However, it wasn't gonna be easy. He has no idea who or what Destoroyah's new form is, since everyone believed that the Titan of Terror was lost to history. Astareth pinches the bridge of his nose as he knew this was going to be difficult, but he shrugged it off and began to look around. Maybe Astareth could use his powers to freeze time and sense Destoroyah's energy. Then again, since he would have just been born, that can't happen, since he won't be giving off any energy. Astareth. As Astareth was walking, trying to come up with any sort of idea on how to locate the Titan of Terror's new form. Like maybe he should check a place called a hospital, which sounds like a good idea. But there isn't one in Kuo, so that's out of the question. Plus, there is a chance that Destoroyah isn't at a hospital and is within Kuo, but at a random house. He doesn't know, he came here completely blind like a bat. Just then everything appeared to slow down before coming to a complete halt. This shocked him since he wasn't using his powers, there was also no one else besides him in the past, so there could only be one simple answer. It was Destoroyah. Asterisk. Destoroyah. Did you honestly think that you actually think you can do this, Asterisk? The black-haired man turned his head in the direction of the voice, and right before his eyes were none other than Issei Haidu, or rather, Destoroyah. Asterisk. Why you? Issei. Me. Asterisk. How are you here? Issei smirked as his eyes glowed purple. Issei. I exist everywhere and nowhere within time, in the past, present, and future. Asterisk. Damn it. Issei. I knew you would come here, so I hid my past self somewhere in this timeline before he hatches. Asterisk. Oh, so you're afraid. Issei laughed at the time demon's words, him afraid. Talking about being a comedian. Issei. Fuck no, why would I be afraid? I've lived as everything and nothing, I've seen the beginning and the end. I've been on good and evil, light and darkness, creation and destruction. I have been them all, but I won't let you get in the way of my plan. He appears in front of Asterisk and lands a punch on his face. This blow sends the black-haired man flying out of Kuo and straight through a mountain, causing immense pain to the time demon. Asterisk. Arrgh. Gritting his teeth, Asterisk slowly began to pull himself up. But he didn't see Issei appear in front of him, and Issei tried to axe kick him, but luckily Asterisk dodged in time as the kick caused a huge crater. Even though Asterisk was able to dodge the attack in time, the fact that one attack caused a huge crater to form proved the fact that Destoroyah was far too powerful for anyone to handle. Even if the most powerful beings in the universe decided to team up, they wouldn't stand a chance against him. Asterisk knew that his chances of him winning this battle is no more than 0%, but he had to at least try his best. He was the time demon for God's sake, he had mastery of time at a level that even God himself couldn't reach. If he was gonna die fighting the monster before him, then he was sure as hell gonna give it his all. Who knows, maybe he'll get lucky and actually cause some sort of damage to the beast. Asterisk narrowed his eyes as the dust clouds flowed past him, he watched as the shape of Issei approached him. Asterisk. You had enough hiding. He heard a chuckle from within the grey clouds. Issei. Foolish, Astardo. Issei walked out from the grey clouds and as he did, Asterisk's eyes widened as he was hit by the monster's bloodlust. It wasn't like anything he had felt before, not even the anger of God or a woman could reach this level of bloodlust. Destoroyah's was on a whole other level, so much so that the very ground started cracking from the pressure. Issei let out a devilish grin and began to laugh like a maniac. Issei. Ha. Is this really the great Asterisk? The demon god of time, cause, to be honest. You're nothing but a weakling. Asterisk growled as he glared at Issei, his eyes glowing. No more, it was time to take this battle seriously. Asterisk stopped time and tried to punch Issei, who grabbed it much to Asterisk's shock. How was he able to move if he stopped time? Issei. Really? Stopping time? Asterisk. How? Issei grins in response and began to unleash a brutal assault upon the time demon. The first thing he did was grab the black-haired man by the face and slammed him into the ground, he then began to give him a brutal beatdown by punching him and stomping on his face. This resulted in a crater forming with each blow that Issei unleashed upon Asterisk, but it wasn't just him who was getting damaged. The entire planet was as well. Asterisk. Damn it. Gotta break free. His eyes flashed for a split second as Issei was about to deliver another punch to the demon's face, but before it came into contact with him, Asterisk vanished. Issei. Oh. Running RW. Issei was cut off as he was struck in the back by a beam, he turned and saw Asterisk glaring at him, his eyes glowing and his fist radiating with time energy. Issei growled at first, but then that scowlful expression turned into a sinister grin as he started to crack his neck. The Titan of Terror knew that Asterisk wasn't just gonna lay down and die, he was gonna fight. Fight because his comrade, God, was waiting on his return. Thinking of that, both Yahweh and Asterisk are friends. Comrades. Allies. Besties. Friends. Who knows what else. It made Issei want to puke his guts up. The brown-haired boy roared loudly as both his fists were covered in a purple aura, almost mimicking Asterisk, with the only exception being that what Issei had wasn't anything to do with time. They both charged at each other and began to brutally collide their fists against each other, showing no mercy. Each blow against the other caused a shockwave that began to destroy the entire terrain around them, but Asterisk knew that he wouldn't be able to keep up for much longer. You see, what he is doing is covering his fist in time energy, or as he likes to call them, time bubbles that he created a very long time ago. This has frozen time within them, so he shouldn't be taking any damage right now. If he did, then the bubbles will simply reverse the damage before it even happened. Issei. Astereth gritted his teeth. Astereth. I can't keep up. Even with my time powers. Astereth then jumped away before Issei could punch him again. Issei. Oh. What's wrong, Astereth? Admitting you are too weak to fight me? Astereth. Mock me while you can, Destoroyah, but I will. Issei. Oh. Now, you're barking. Do you want a biscuit, boy? You want a biscuit? Astereth deadpanned. Astereth. Issei. Have a biscuit. Issei throws a dog treat at his face. Astereth. How and why the fuck do you have that? Issei. Fuck you, that's why. The time demon deadpanned. He doesn't know if he should be confused that Issei had a dog treat or enraged and offended that Issei basically insulted him. Suddenly, Issei vanished from Astereth's point of view and reappeared above him. He then reared his fist back and socked him straight in the face and sending him flying into another mountain and causing a massive hole within it. Issei. Astereth deadpanned. Was this really the monster that faced Yahweh and nearly killed him? Cause he certainly wasn't acting like it, which was very strange to Astereth. For some reason, he can't help but feel like that the Titan of Terror wasn't taking him seriously. Astereth. Are you even taking this seriously? Issei smirked. Issei. Of course not, I could have easily killed you the moment you showed up in the past. Astereth growled at Issei. Issei. You know, I think we should just end this. Astereth. I couldn't say it better myself. Issei chuckled as his eyes glowed purple. Astereth was about to make his move, but his eyes soon widened in shock as he felt a strong pain within his chest. He slowly looked down and saw that Issei's hand was shoved through his chest. Blood started to erupt from both the wound and the time demon's mouth as he started shaking. Astereth. How? Issei. Like I told you. Issei then grew a sinister grin. Issei. I could have killed you the moment you arrived in the past. Issei pulled out Astereth's heart, which was pulsing rapidly, and Issei grinned at Astereth one last time before crushing the heart. This caused Astereth to fall back to the ground and land on his back. Blood poured out of the gaping hole in his body as Issei loomed over the demon, his eyes glowing with a purple aura. Astereth. Why you won't win, Destoroyah. There will be others like Elohim to stop you. Having enough, Issei stomped on his head. Blood splattered all across the ground as time began to resume. The leaves on the trees moved in the wind, the birds were singing, and the people of Kuo had no idea what had just happened. Issei chuckled to himself. Does Astereth really think that he will fail? He won't. He has spent countless eons to complete his goal, going through life after life in a never-ending cycle. He chose the path of perpetual torment. With boiling blood he shall forever scowl the eternal nothingness and seek vengeance against the one who had wronged him. The age of his reckoning was uncounted. Scribes shall carve his name deep in the tablets of history, fate, time, space, and reality for eons to come, and each battle etch terror in the hearts of those who live in the Omniverse. Unbreakable. Incorruptible. Unyielding. Issei. I've already won. He will get revenge on the one who has wronged him. He shall destroy the entire Omniverse and that bastard who he called his brother. The 0 point. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching and supporting us. Part 4 is over. See you in the next part.